Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Tuesday, June 9th, 2026 in the space and time continuum. And again, my list is huge again. And I don't want to just go through the list and tell you what you may not have heard from mainstream media, because it gets blurry after a little bit. There's just too much to talk about each week. So I wasn't sure what to do on my normal day, which is usually Monday. I didn't record. And then I came up with something that I think will be more fun for the show. And it covers some of the news. And it also, we need to start having fun with this. It's just so frustrating, aggravating, drives us all crazy. And we need to have some fun with it. We're optimistic here at the show. Things are going to change, but the change is coming way too slow. However, I got to say, one of the most amazing things, and I think important things that happened this week, of all of the many, many things, is the change in corporate media. Kristen Welker, who is the host of Meet the Press on NBC. You may have seen, and if you haven't seen the entirety of this interview, I encourage you to go watch it. I've seen pretty much the whole interview in individual clips, but I'm thinking of actually going and watching the whole interview. It's insane. Donald Trump is absolutely insane. And you can tell that she broke him just because she's a woman, mostly, also a woman of color, and he can't handle that. But I have seen her do mediocre work. It's like she's better than some of the other journalists at doing follow-up questions, but this interview, she stayed on him. She went after him. I was astonished. Sadly, I was astonished because she was acting the way a journalist should act. And that's astonishing in today's world. But it is, watching both her and him in that interview, I think is extremely interesting. And then I saw another clip just this morning on a show called CNN Newsnight. That host is Abby Phillips. She's been doing a good job, but at the same time, she includes these complete propagandists on her show. It's kind of a round table. She has a couple people that lean left, a couple people that lean right. She's got really good guests on there sometimes. She's had Adam Mockler, who does a great job on her show. But there was a clip where some meathead MAGA guy was trying to talk about the fraud in the California voting system. And another guest on the panel just said, this is a news show, and I have a moral obligation to call you out on that. That is a lie. You have no evidence of it. And then Abby Phillips chimed in too and said, what evidence do you have? Do you have any evidence? And he's like, and they stayed on him, and he crumbled. He even then said, they won't show us the evidence because they won't give over the voter rolls. And then Abby Phillips says, they won't give over the voter rolls because that's illegal. And he said, well, we didn't know about the fraud in Medicare in Minnesota until the federal government went in and looked at it. And then another guest chimed in and said, that's a lie as well. That's also a lie. People were already in jail when you guys started talking about that. That has been, I mean, that was tried. That was investigated by Minnesota and tried, and people went to jail. So again, astonishment that there was actual journalism going on, and there was actually people disallowing these maggots to tell blatant lies. And it's sad that that is astonishing, but I think this week, like last week, this week I think surpasses last week in a turning point that is going on. In this, I'm going to start calling it, I think, a revolution. We see in Albania. And again, I don't know what you have and haven't seen, but Albania has had enormous protests going on now for more than a week. I think like 2 weeks against Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, who just think they can come in and build a Epstein resort on an island that is a pristine island that the country cherishes. They went in and they got to the corrupt prime minister and had him change regulations so that they're allowed to go and desecrate this island. We're going to talk about that in another segment here, just a little bit in the fun part that I have prepared here now. But the protests have actually gone after the prime minister now as well. And it's kind of like what happened in Turkey. That was huge. What happened in Turkey a couple months ago. I believe it is happening in the United States now. There is enough. We saw it in the game last night, the NBA game, or what is it, NBA? I know nothing about sports, but Donald Trump insisting on going to this championship basketball game in New York and messing up the whole town. And the other oligarch who owns the team, the New York Knicks, invited him. That guy needs to be ran out of town on a rail as well. So these are the things that are happening. People are standing up against it. I mean, I didn't see a single person stick up for Donald Trump going to that game. Not a single person anywhere. They were all criticizing it, saying how stupid it was. And then the boos. Usually, he's been booed before, but usually when you see that footage, you can also hear cheering. Not this time. It was 100% boo. I didn't hear a single person cheering for him when his idiotic face came up on the Jumbotron. By the way, in that interview with Kristen Welker, it takes place in a little tin barn on a farm in a pretty heavy rainstorm. So the rain was loud. Again, this shows how little brain power there is in the Trump regime. They should have never let that happen in that barn. You know, he's going to try and talk to farmers in Wisconsin. And of course, they're not listening to him either. So I think, did I talk about that last week? I don't know. But there was like the farm union guys in Wisconsin and another farmer who had been farming for 50 years, 50 years, saying that this is Donald Trump's fault, that his farm is basically collapsing right now. They can't, their grass is in peril because they don't have the proper fertilizer, and that means the cows can't eat. That's dairy, so many things. $100 a day more just for diesel fuel on this guy's farm. So that's $100 a day adds up pretty quickly. Anyway, those are just, again, I'm probably talking about all this stuff too much. Another thing that's pretty hilarious is that the UFC fight, whatever cage match on the White House grounds will be canceled either by the courts or by Mother Nature, it looks like. There's over 60% chance of severe thunderstorms going on that night, June 14th, I think it is. It's Donald Trump's birthday, and he's desecrated and defiled the White House lawn with this idiotic meathead, barbaric, disgusting UFC event. And somebody is calling it out in court, and they have a viable, talking about corruption because Trump and the UFC guy, they're making money off of taking advantage of the fact that they're using the White House lawn. So I think a court ruling is going to come either Wednesday night or Thursday day, and that court ruling could make the order that the UFC fight cannot go on. And I think it's hilarious that he already built this monstrosity and might not be able to use it, because that monstrosity is definitely going to be a lightning rod, literally, in a thunderstorm, which it sounds like they may have going on. So what I have in the second segment that we're going to go through is Kasem's countdown of the top 5 members of the evil fascist Trump regime considered persona-non-grata in various parts of the world. So we're going to go through that list in the second half, but I want to tell you a couple other really good news things. The New Mexico Truth Commission is investigating Zorro Ranch, the Epstein horrible place where horrible things happened. They're this week putting out 14 subpoenas. They're subpoenaing the DOJ, the FBI, 2 banks. I can't remember which one. I didn't write those down. But that means they're following the money. And that's what you got to do. The whole Epstein oligarch, horrible billionaire pedophile thing has a lot to do with money, and blackmail. Yes, all of the actual, sexual abuse of children is extremely important. But the main criminality that can be proven, that can really put people in prison, is money. Money laundering, things like this, blackmail, payoffs, So that's good news. 14 subpoenas being put out, the New Mexico Truth Commission. And there are people who are saying that this is the most valid investigation going on right now in the Epstein matter. Complete. Also, I wanted to mention Graham Plattner, who's running for the Senate seat in the state of Maine. And he's running against Susan Collins, who I'm sure you know. And she just now got discovered that she's been doing insider trading. And it's apparently a really huge scandal, especially if you live in Maine. Graham Plattner, they have been trying to take him down. The GOP's been trying to get him out because they know they can't beat him. The governor, who's popular in the state of Maine, was running against him in the primary, and she dropped out weeks ago because he was so far ahead of her. She was polling in single digits. So he's extremely popular there, and they're talking about that he sexted some women before and while he was married. His wife apparently is on his side, sticking up for him. He talks about that he went through a dark past. He's had PTSD. He's also a veteran. He I think he had a drinking problem, but he openly talks about most of it, at least. And then when something else comes out, he opens up about it as well. There was an accusation that's basically been completely debunked by a person made accusations against him that it turns out that person was very nefarious themselves. And some of the people I've heard interviewed in Maine are Democrats who are like, yeah, I'm disappointed that this stuff is in his past. I'm disappointed, but he's a real person. We all have stuff in our past. Graham Plattner is asking for redemption. He's saying, hey, I have done things I regret. I'm asking for redemption. He's a seems like a good guy now, and he really is good at messaging. I mean, Maine loves him. So all of these Democrats are saying, no, I'm still absolutely going to vote for him because he will beat Susan Collins. And I like him. I'm disappointed to hear these things from his past, but I'm voting for him. And Steve Bannon makes a very good point. Steve Bannon, the GOP will lose the Senate. His reason being, the GOP does not want to canvass right now, and you have to canvass. You have to door knock. You have to get your message out. You have to show the people that you are running and that you care enough to be running a campaign. Nobody in the Republican Party wants to do that. None of the regular people in the committees, the Senate committees and things like that all around the country, none of them want to do that for the Republican Party. And Steve Bannon knows this, and Steve Bannon is saying the Republicans are going to lose the Senate. Of course, everyone's saying that they're going to lose the House. I've been saying they're also going to lose the Senate because we can see the results of all of these many special elections that have been going on now for years where the Democrats overperform in incredible ways. It's going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans. That's why they're so scared. That's why they're trying to make everyone think that what's happening in California is fraudulent in the vote count. They want you to think that elections are fraudulent in this country, because that's the only way they can hold on to anything is cheating. So, all right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to do Kasem's Countdown to the top 5 members of the evil fascist Trump regime considered Persona-Non-Grada in various parts of the world. When we come back, you're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. Satellite View. Find our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com. Go to YouTube and search for Satellite View Podcast. Subscribe to the channel. It's free. And you can find me at Todd Mikkelson on Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram. And I think it's at Mikkelson Politics on Facebook. You can see video clips and all kinds of things of what we got going on here. There was one other thing. This just in. Man jokes about how he never knew there was a B in the word dumb, as he calls everyone else dumb. Yeah, Donald Trump acting like a stupid little boy again. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? I took the B out of dumb in Democrats, and I just took the E and changed it to a U, and I call them Democrats. Clever, Don. You're so clever. Many people didn't know there was a B in the word dumb. Many people never knew that Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. Many people didn't know. God, he's an idiot. And I think he made our chart of Kasem's Countdown. So I'm going to set my notes aside. I know there's still a couple other things that are worth mentioning. What all? Oh, by the way, here. A magnitude 8 earthquake in the Philippines and a magnitude 6.1 in Florida and Cuba. Did you hear about that? That used to make the news when things like that happened. And by the way, what's going on with the planet? So it's a bit scary. Also, things about Butler coming out. Apparently, the FBI was monitoring emails from the guy who supposedly shot Donald Trump's ear. This was uncovered by Judicial Watch. If you used to hear me talk about a guy called Tom Fitton, who is totally Trump. But now he's uncovering information that is further proving something that you and I have known for a couple years, that the whole Butler assassination attempt was some sort of staged thing. I don't know exactly how or what, but, a lot of information coming out about that still. Now let's get to Casey Kasem's countdown of the top 5 members of the evil fascist Trump regime considered persona-non-grata in various parts of the world. Persona-Non-Grada is a Latin term that translates to unwelcome person. Although the 5 artists in our countdown are not the only ones to have earned this moniker, they are this week's top 5. Number 5. Our first artist in the countdown is the member of the regime that inspired this countdown by actually being declared persona-non-grata in Normandy, France, after his horrible 4th-grade bully boy speech there on this anniversary of D-Day. Secretary of Unnecessary Forever War, Pete Kegbreath. Yeah, I'm sure you heard about that. By the way, this last Saturday was D-Day, the anniversary of D-Day. And Trump made a fool. I mean, so much disrespect, pissing off veterans and current military personnel. But let's go to number 4. Number 4 in our countdown is the overexfoliated non-human whose face is as unable to portray any expression as his stepmother-in-law Melania. His insensitive aloofness has brought scorn and disgust from people around the world for 12 years now. But his most recent provocation of outrage has garnered nationwide, now weeks-long, gargantuan protests in the country of Albania, where he has gotten the prime minister to lift regulations so that he can desecrate a beautiful uninhabited island in that country using the billions of dollars he criminally acquired from Middle Eastern countries in a pay-to-play scheme with the Trump regime. He is the owner of the building on 5th Avenue that bears the address of the number of the beast, Jared Kushner. At number 4. Now let's go next to number 3. Our next artist seemed to show some semblance of intelligence when she disappeared for the most part after her involvement in the evil fascist Trump regime's first illegitimate term. After that term, she was persona non grata in New York City. So she, like many non-human possible reptilians, moved to Palm Beach, Florida. But now she has reemerged to remind us all just how cringy, clueless, and out of touch she is. She portrays herself as a world explorer who discovered an uninhabited island just begging to be made into another haven for billionaire pedophiles to commit atrocities of unspeakable sorts on innocent children. The problem is that she did not discover this island. It belongs to the people of Albania, and they consider her unwelcome or persona non grata. She's yet another one who is unrecognizable in old photos because of all the work rebuilding her head that she has paid for. Now, moving up to number 3 on our chart, Ivanka Trump. Yep, so that goes along with what I said before, the story about the revolution going on in Albania against their own prime minister because their own prime minister is as corrupt as Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. So this is mind-numbing news that is actually making good things happen. And now, let's go to number 2. Next in our countdown is a soft porn star and paid escort
who illegally worked in the United States as an immigrant whose visa had expired. That career enabled her to get a couple American oligarchs to acquire an Einstein visa for her to stay and eventually import her family through chained migration. These oligarchs claim she knows 7 languages. She has made it clear that English is not one of them. She finally went on to achieve her seemingly one and only passion, becoming a mother to her son, whom she has named after her own soul. That son's name is Baron. So now, number 2 on our chart, Melania Trump.
By the way, that model that got exported by one of these 2 oligarchs, actually, that got that visa for Melania Trump. It's his name, Patoli or something like that. It came out that model who that guy, Patoli or whatever his name is, had deported because he was in a fight with her because she is the mother of his kid, and they apparently dated for a long time. And that's a story from a couple months ago now, when Melania made that announcement where it seemed like she was trying to get out in front of something. And this week, that model said that, yeah, it's known to most of us that are in the business there with Jeffrey Epstein that Melania Trump did work as an escort for Jeffrey Epstein. That's what she is saying, and it was apparently overheard in a recording of a conversation she was having with this Patoli guy. So apparently, he's corroborating it by just going along in that conversation. This is something that you and I knew, I don't know, since we first heard of Melania Trump. There's all these naked photos of her. There's her naked with another woman in a film that looks like a soft porn film. I have nothing against being a porn star. I have nothing against being a sex worker. The only problem is most people who are sex workers, they're not doing it by their own first choice. There's usually some really bad reason why they're forced to do that. And I feel bad for Melania as far as that goes. I think she may have been a completely innocent person at one point in her life, unlike Donald Trump and all these other oligarchs, billionaire oligarchs, that pulled people like her in. So to be clear, I'm disgusted with Melania Trump not because of those things. I'm disgusted with her because of her hypocriticness. She's a hypocrite. She went along with Donald Trump saying that Obama wasn't born in the United States. She went along with all of this racism. She went along with all this stuff. So at some point, she happily started to go along with all of these things. Whether or not she wanted to be a soft porn star and paid escort back 30 years ago, I don't know. But it seems like now she's all on for it. So that's, and the fact that there are people who call her a class act and one of the greatest first ladies we've ever had, the classiest first lady we've ever had. I'm sorry. If you have ever thought that, then you should at least have your driver's license taken away. You should not be allowed to operate any machinery, including your own car. So, got that off my chest finally. I bet you're wondering who number 1 in our chart is. I bet you're not. Who is number 1 on Kasem's countdown of the top 5 members of the evil fascist Trump regime considered Persona-Non-Grada in various parts of the world? Number 1. Moving to number 1 on our charts. He's been here many times. Donald Trump. And you're probably sick of me imitating Kasem at this point as well. And you can tell my throat's getting a little scratchy. And when that happens and I'm imitating Kasem, I start to sound like Donald Trump. And to me, that desecrates Kasem's memory. So I need to stop. We all know what's going on with Donald Trump being booed out of New York just last night, Monday night. So he's persona-non-grata from his native city of New York. He's persona-non-grata from pretty much anywhere by 99.9 repeating percent of the people who populate the planet Earth. So I didn't even write a paragraph for him. I actually had to write this as a script. And number one, I just have, 3 periods there, the ... because we're done talking about Donald Trump, I think, for the most part. Listen, there are other things going on. I wanted to point out a couple things since it was D-Day. These are fun things. Since it was D-Day, there were a couple stories by some very old men that I know. One of them is my father-in-law, Heidi's father, who is now 99 years old and is still here. And then another one of her great uncles, I can't remember, but he lived to be, I believe, 100 or maybe 101. He passed a few years ago, just a very few years ago, at the age of either 100 or 101. He wrote a very interesting little book. It's kind of a booklet. He never had it published. He just wrote it because it was interesting and passed it out to family members and things like that. And it was memories of the period of the Second World War, where he said he was in California for a while and he drove from California back to Minnesota. And he said it took forever because the speed limit in the country was 40 miles an hour because they were trying to save rubber. So if you went slower, you didn't wear your tires out as fast. He remembers that going on. And then Heidi's dad, my father-in-law, and I backed this up. He told me this story probably 15 or 20 years ago or more, maybe, and because he knows I like history and things like that. And I was going to tell you this story this week, and I thought I should probably back it up because he's the only one who's ever told me this story. I looked it up, and it is he was 100% on the mark. The details that he told me was exactly correct. Lucky Strikes cigarettes. You know it as a red dot that says in white, Lucky Strikes. And the rest of the packaging is white. So it's just a red dot on white that says Lucky Strikes. Before the Second World War, it was still the red dot that said Lucky Strikes, but the rest of the package was colored green. So the whole package was green with a red dot that said Lucky Strikes. And Lucky Strikes took advantage of this by advertising themselves as being patriotic. It's very interesting. The green ink used to color their packaging contained copper and chromium. And copper and chromium needed to be used to rebuild our military when we got into the Second World War. So Lucky Strikes cigarettes started an ad campaign saying, Lucky Strike Green went to war. I love that kind of history. So I wanted to tell that to you as a way of sending off this show and making it historically interesting, which I like to do on this show. I want to thank you so much for joining me this week and sticking with us here to the end. Again, let's try and stay sane. Let's try and laugh at this stuff. It is horrible for a lot of people, and it's hard to watch, but we got to keep on it. We got to keep doing the protesting. The power of the people is palpable, and we got to keep it up. I thank you so much for doing that. We're doing it all across the world right now. And if we stick together, we are going to bring this regime down. And then let's decide what we want our world to be like after that. For instance, AOC says, after we get rid of this regime, I want to use the government to create affordable health care, affordable education, affordable housing, affordable food. All right, let's put our mind behind that. That's what we're going to do after we bring this regime down. you and me sticking together, we're going to do it all. So I thank you so much for being here with me, and I will be with you again next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and